His bones are powder. He can't move. The greatest Ork Warlord in the galaxy has his boot raised above what's left of Yarrick's skull. And then Ghazghkull stops, looks down, and grins, not because he lost, because killing Yarrick right now would ruin everything. This is the third time the Orks have had him dead to rights. The third time they chose not to finish it, and every single time, Yarrick came back worse, more bionic, more furious, more impossible to stop. Drop a comment. Was letting Yarrick go the smartest thing Ghazghkull ever did, or the biggest mistake in Ork history? And if you want more lore like this, subscribe. You're 7 years old the first time you see what an Ork does to a planet. Your name isn't Yarrick yet, it's Varden. Sebastian Varden of Taos III, and you're hiding under the floorboards while something large and green tears your world apart above you. Your grandfather taught you this. Hide. Be quiet. Wait. The old man was Astra Militarum. He knew how things ended for worlds that caught the greenskins' attention. You learned what that sound was. The specific sound a building makes when something very large is enjoying itself inside. Before you learned to read. He was right. Taos III doesn't survive that wah. Most of it doesn't anyway. But you do. You spend weeks alone in the ruins, setting traps for Gretchen, scavenging food from the wreckage, learning, without meaning to, how the Ork mind works, what makes them afraid, what makes them confident, the patterns in their chaos. When an Imperial Guard contingent finally finds you, you're not the scared child they expected. You're something more useful than that. The Commissar attached to that unit takes one look at you and makes a decision. You're sent to the Schola Progenium, and you take your grandfather's name, Yarrick. You spend decades earning it. Apprenticed under Lord Commissar Rasp, rising through the ranks, building a career distinguished enough that you retire. You're old. You've done enough. Armageddon, they say. The great industrial hive world, one of the Imperium's most fortified planets. A good place to help build a regiment and finally slow down. You even learn Ork along the way. From a captured raider. Because understanding your enemy, you've always believed, is the only way to truly defeat them. You're going to need that. It's 941. M41 when Ghazghkull Mog Uruk Thraka arrives. 2 moons are already burning when the first landing craft hit the atmosphere. Not 1, 2. Then come the hundreds of landing craft. Then the millions of Orks. The first waves hit Armageddon like a hammer, and the planetary governor, a man named von Strab, makes a series of decisions so catastrophic they border on treason. He refuses reinforcements from neighboring systems. He dismisses the threat until it's too late to dismiss anything. He manages, through sheer incompetence, to take one of the Imperium's greatest defensive worlds and make it helpless. When it becomes clear that von Strab won't lead, someone has to. You volunteer. The defense you build at Hades Hive is not elegant. It's furious. You execute officers who retreat without orders. You personally lead counterattacks into Ork breaches. You drag demoralized soldiers off the ground and put them back on the line with nothing but sheer will. The defenders of Hades Hive should have collapsed in the first weeks. They don't, because you will not let them. This catches Ghazghkull's attention. He hits Hades Hive harder. Then harder still. Every strategy he can think of, you counter. The siege drags on. From Ghazghkull's perspective, this is unacceptable. One old human man and a collection of frightened soldiers have turned his wah into a stalemate. Something needs to change. He sends Ugelhard. Ugelhard is one of Ghazghkull's strongest war bosses. The kind of Ork that ends sieges personally. He tears through the outer defenses like they're not there and pushes deep into the hive, his boys streaming behind him. And you step forward to meet him. What follows lasts 4 minutes. You know because you count. An old human commissar against a war machine wrapped in muscle and scrap iron. Ugelhard is bigger, stronger, and built for exactly this moment. He takes your arm, not symbolically, your right arm, gone. Just like that. Most people, this is where the story ends. Blood loss, shock, the practical reality of standing unarmed against a creature that weighs 4 times what you do. You kill Ugelhard, and this is where Yarrick becomes something other than just human. You look at the power claw that just removed your arm. The crude Ork technology, still dripping, and you give an order, attach it. The process of grafting Ork machinery to a human nervous system should kill you from pain alone. The surgeons say this: no anesthetic, no sterile field, crude metal, an open wound, and a man who has decided the procedure is happening whether his body agrees or not. They do it anyway, because you're not asking. You don't make a sound that anyone would later admit to hearing. By the time it's done, you have Ugelhard's own weapon fused where your arm used to be, still warm from its previous owner. You go back to the line. Word spreads through the Ork ranks faster than you'd expect. The human commissar ripped a war boss apart and took his claw as a trophy. And somewhere in the telling and retelling, the story becomes something else. He's not just hard to kill, he's impossible to kill. He has an evil eye that burns with a death gaze. He cannot die. The greenskins, with their strange psychic belief bleeding into reality, begin to genuinely fear you. You notice this. Your left eye had been lost in a previous engagement, standard bionic replacement. But now, with the Ork legend building around you, you have that bionic eye modified. It can emit a laser capable of burning through a man's skull at close range. A clean kill shot, with a glance. You made the legend true. The Orks call it the Bale Eye. And when it turns toward them, they break. Not from tactics, not from strategy, from fear. Pure, deep, psychic Ork fear. The Space Marines arrive. They break the siege. The second war for Armageddon ends with Hades Hive still standing, and everyone knows why. They call you the savior of Armageddon. You don't care about the title. You care that Ghazghkull escaped. There's a dark footnote to the Second War that most Imperial histories skip. The Inquisition looks at Armageddon after the fighting stops and makes a decision. The planet has been too contaminated by Ork presence. Too many soldiers have seen things they shouldn't, heard things they shouldn't, been in contact with greenskin psychers and war shamans and the raw edge of the field. The Inquisition's solution is simple. Quarantine everyone, not just the Orks. Everyone. Soldiers who fought and survived. Civilians who hid in the hives. The people of Armageddon. The Space Wolves refuse. They fought beside these men. They watched them hold a hive city against impossible odds. The idea of letting the Inquisition ship them all off to labor worlds and death camps is not something the Space Wolves are prepared to accept. It nearly becomes a war between two Imperial factions, right there on the ruins of a world they just finished defending. The tension is eventually buried under politics and time, but it doesn't disappear. It festers. You note this. You've seen what the Imperium does to people who become inconvenient after being useful. You file it away, and you go back to work. You come out of retirement in 944, M41. 3 years later, you were already old when the war started. That hasn't changed. But there's unfinished business, and the Imperium isn't pursuing it fast enough. Ghazghkull is on Golgotha. The intelligence is solid. The plan is sound. It's a trap. Ghazghkull commits his forces to open battle. You engage, and then a second hidden, hits from behind. A space hulk emerges from behind the planet's moon and drives off the Imperial Navy before anyone can react. The human forces are ground to nothing, and you are taken. They strip you of the power claw. They take the Bale Eye. They hang you in chains above a pit. Everything that makes you dangerous removed. Nothing left but an old man who should already be dead 3 times over. Then they throw you in with the other human slaves. This is a mistake. You spend your time mapping the Space Hulk, memorizing patrol routes, noting the rhythms of the Ork guards. You identify a massive structure the other prisoners call the Ork Head, a temple to the Ork gods, and you're certain Ghazghkull uses it for rituals. You want to go there yourself and end this permanently. The other prisoners talk you out of it. You listen, which, for Yarrick, is rare. But they're right. Dying on a space hulk accomplishes nothing. Getting back to warn the Imperium of Ghazghkull's planned return matters more. The revolt still fails. You find yourself in Ork captivity once more, stripped of options. And then Ghazghkull does something no one expects. He releases you, armed, provisioned, given a vehicle and a heading back to Imperial lines. His explanation, delivered to baffled subordinates who expected an execution. Good enemies is hard to find. He's going to invade Armageddon again. He wants you there when he does. You take the shuttlecraft, you return, and you spend the next 54 years preparing. You were old during the Second War for Armageddon, past retirement age. When the Third War begins in 998, M41, 57 years have passed since the Second. You should be long dead, not from enemy action, from time, from the sheer biological mathematics of human lifespan. You're there. Ancient, yes, moving slower than you once did, but present on the battlefield when Ghazghkull's second, larger crashes into Armageddon. Dozens of Space Marine chapters answer the call this time, chapters that rarely answer anyone's call. They answer this one, and you're in it. There is a theory, not officially endorsed by the Adeptus Mechanicus, not written into any imperial decree, about what keeps Yarrick alive. It starts with how Ork technology works. Greenskins can make machines function through collective belief. Their guns fire more reliably when Orks are confident. Their vehicles move faster in the middle of a wah, because millions of Orks believe they will. The psychic field they generate, the energy of their faith, reshapes physical reality in small and large ways. Millions of Orks believe Yarrick cannot die. If that belief operates the same way it operates on everything else the Orks touch, if the wah doesn't distinguish between a gun and a man, then you're not surviving despite the Orks. You're surviving because of them. Their fear is the prayer. Their hatred is the faith. You might be the first human in history kept alive by greenskin worship, not by the Emperor's light, not by the prayers of a billion faithful, by the collective psychic terror of creatures who hate you. Every inquisitor who hears this theory develops a twitch they never lose, a saint whose altar is built from Ork fear, whose miracles run on the rotten faith of his enemies. The Third War winds down the way these things do. Ghazghkull departs, not defeated, but called elsewhere, towards something even larger. You follow. You catch up to him once on a world called Icaria. You get your claw into him, he grabs you back. And he is so much larger than you, has always been so much larger than you, and he crushes what's left of Yarrick like dry wood, and he holds you up to look at you, and he raises his boot and stops, grins. The same grin, the same choice, made again. A Space Wolf chaplain pulls what remains of Yarrick from the battlefield before anything final can happen. Against every law of biology and warfare, the old man of Armageddon wakes up. He's still out there, still hunting. Ghazghkull wanted the best possible enemy. He searched the galaxy and found one old human commissar who had learned, at age 7, hiding under floorboards on a dying world, how to survive when everything says you shouldn't. And then, by refusing to kill him, by fearing him, by building an entire mythology around his immortality, the Orks gave that man something no amount of bionics or willpower could provide. They made it true. The Power Claw made him dangerous. The Bale Eye made him feared. But the thing that makes Yarrick impossible to kill isn't grafted to his body. It lives in the minds of every Ork who has ever heard his name, felt something cold move through them, and as long as the Orks remember Yarrick, Yarrick doesn't die, which means Ghazghkull's greatest mistake wasn't releasing him on Golgotha. It was being afraid of him in the first place.